there are some great features in SharePoint, and there are so many features that I just don't see people take enough advantage of. One of the key things that I don't see really people use is quick charts. They are a nice way of being able to create a very, very simple data representation in a SharePoint site without the need to go down to a Power BI level. So what we're going to be looking at today is how we can create a list that supports those charts so that we can at least have some dynamic content coming through. Understanding the SharePoint web parts is one of the keys to really exploiting the platform. We all pay for SharePoint, we get it as part of our Microsoft 365 licenses. But most people, hand on heart, can't say that they are utilising it to its fullest extent. One of the key areas that I've really started to explore, certainly with the customers that I work with, is looking at how they can do very simple representations of data. We're not trying to do anything groundbreaking here. We're not trying to reinvent Power BI or replace Power BI. Power BI still has a great place in the platform, but sometimes we don't always have the Power BI Pro licenses where we can share the data visualizations, or maybe I just want something very quick that I can just throw up into SharePoint to allow us to do something. So what we're going to look at today is the quick chart web part, looking at what we need to do to create a list so that we can go and keep updating a chart based on maybe more data that's going in, and then the different options that we have around the visualization. So let's go and have a look and start our journey within SharePoint. So I've got a very bare SharePoint site at the moment, but I've received a brief from the MD saying I want to see some high-level statistics on our SharePoint page just to do with sales from this year. Now, we could go down the route of doing something in Excel. Do I really want to do that? No, I want to start using SharePoint and using SharePoint lists more effectively. Because I'm going to look at using a SharePoint list, I can also go and start to explore my quick chart web part. So before we get going, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a couple of lists just because I want to really illustrate something. So I'm going to create a sales list, no numbers. And that might seem a little bit strange, but you'll see why I'm doing this in a moment. And I'm just going to go and create one more list, and this is going to be called my sales list. And let's go and create that. And this time, rather than just leaving it with a title, I'm going to go into here and I'm going to add in a number field. And so what I'm going to put in here is that I've got a sales. And this is just going to be, let's go and make it a currency. So one of the things that I need to actually have first of all, before I start using the quick chart web part, is to understand what I need to make it work. Now, when we look at the quick chart web part in a moment, we'll see that we can enter data into the web part directly. But if I want to build this from a SharePoint list, I need to have two things: a text field, a string, and a number field. And currency will work in this way as well. So let's just go and set this, and let's just go and make some sales information up here. So I'm going to go and put a new, and let's go for January. February. February was a good month. Actually, let me just switch into grid view. Let's speed this up. March. April. This is the reason why I love grid view, by the way. And let's leave it there. That'll do. That's given us some data that we can start to play with. Okay, so I've got my sales list generated. So you're probably thinking now, Matt, why on earth have you created one with no number and one with a number? And it's really just to show you that when we come back to start using the quick chart web part, that you'll only be able to see the one which matches the criteria which we need to make it work. So I'm going to press edit here. Let's go and add a plus onto the screen. And let's go and search for quick chart. And let's add it onto the page. So the quick chart allows me to put a visualization of data directly onto the screen. And I can select really only one of two different visualization types. I can go for a column or I can go for a pie chart. Yeah, so it's going to give me some options. So I'm going to leave it as a column chart to start off with. But once we've decided on how we want it to look, this is where we can start to investigate how we can interact with our web part. So we do have the ability to say that actually I'm going to just manually put these in. And I can go and add. Okay, so I have the ability as a person who can edit this particular site to go onto my page and keep modifying the web part. And if it's not going to change that often, you know what, that is fine. You can use that because that's functionality that is available to you. But what happens if you want it to be more dynamic? What happens if you want somebody who's maybe not necessarily a contributor to the whole site, they just have contribute rights onto my sales list? So you want them to be able to edit it in a specific area. So I have two options when it comes to the data. I have enter data, which is what I've just done manually, or I have get data from a SharePoint list on this site. So let's change that. So when I select that, it changes my web part configuration view, gets rid of the manual data and just gives me a list, or allows me to select a list. But notice that when I actually select open up my drop down, it only allows me to select sales list. So the web part is looking specifically for any lists that contain a string and something numerical. It's a simple web part. It's not trying to transform. It's just taking information and displaying it visually. So I'm going to select a sales list. And from there, I can select what is the data that I want to display. I'm going to select my sales. And what is the column? It's my title. And so as soon as I select that, because all of our web parts react as soon as I configure them, there we go. I can see that my graph has already built itself. So once I've done that, I can then start to look at maybe is this the right order for it? Maybe I want to look at let's look at the ascending order. So I want to see my sales going from smallest to largest. Maybe I want it alphabetical in terms of the actual labels. You have options. Or I can click no sort. If I click no sort, then effectively it's ordering by the ID. It's ordering by the order in which you put them into the SharePoint list in the first place. Okay, so I've got some nice data being visualized here. Let's go and just tidy it up a little bit more. Let's go and give it some labels. So let's go and give it a label. So I've got my X and Y's now labeled. So this is all looking now quite nice. If I want to name my chart, I go and click into my name your chart area up here. And from there, I can say that this is sales for calendar year 2021. And from there, I can either choose to publish it, or actually, what does it look like if I do it as a pie chart? That looks okay, but I'm going to go back to it being a column chart. And from there, I can then republish. So then we can potentially have quite a few of these different web parts on the screen, really to build a very, very simple dashboard up. But the reason why I actually quite like using a SharePoint list for this is because most of you know that I am a Power Automate geek. So I can automate the updates going into that list. I can maybe do some calculations on a different data source that's just going to come and update my high-level values within SharePoint. And because those values have been updated, it's then going to go and update my graphs here for me. So a very, very simple solution. But I'm just going to come back in and edit for a moment. So it's worthwhile just being aware of the limitations of the web part. And it does really handily say up here. So you can see that there are two ways that I have entered data into the web part. If I choose to remain on a manual, in manual entry, then I can have 12 data points. I can have 12 pieces of data being displayed on the chart. If I use a SharePoint list, then at the moment I can have up to 50 items being displayed on that chart. So these are just some of the considerations that you need to take into account when you're actually using the Quick Chart web part. It's very, very simple for implementation, but that means it's also very, very simple for how it can be used as well. So the Quick Chart web part, you've seen just how easy it is to go and put it onto the page and start using it. I'm starting to use it more. I'm looking at more ways of automating the process to update the value, so it hasn't always got to be a manual process to go and update the list. I can take information from Dataverse and I can display it in there. I can take information from an Excel spreadsheet or a third-party solution and then go and update my SharePoint list, or I can do it manually. The options are there. But just to have something that you can build up really quickly, really simply, to take rather than just having a long list of data, build a visualization of it without the knowledge to do it in Power BI, without the licensing to then publish it from Power BI, it is a very, very small, don't get me wrong, but quick win that you can implement. We're going to start exploring more of these web parts as we go through this series of really exploiting SharePoint, but I hope that was useful and it's given you some ideas about how you can potentially use this web part going forward. If you've got any questions, please do feel free to post in the comments. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can find me at MattWeston365, and I'll be happy to help you in any way that I can. But for now, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon.